wanna find you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Within with myself, Denice Stainbank, and my gorgeous co-host.
Sihle Mkhize. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. Today is a topic that's actually quite close to our hearts because it says a lot about how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world on a day-to-day. We are going to be speaking about being chosen. So what it means for human beings to be chosen or not chosen, what it means for us as Christians, how it affects us when we're chosen and when we're not chosen, and how we can deal with that. Yeah. So it's going to be a good one.
Let's get into it. Right. So
yeah. Let's dive right in. So Denice, for you, what does it mean or what does it signify to be chosen, and why do you think that it's important?
I think that so many issues lie in us feeling unchosen. So many issues of self-worth and so many issues stem from not being chosen. Even like from babies, from birth, I think that when we don't feel chosen from birth, or when you know the background of your birth, your mom's pregnancy journey, I think that from there you start to realize whether you were a planned baby or not, and that can give you a sense of how you feel about yourself. I mean, we know that even with babies, whether the mother chooses to take care of the baby, that can lead to feelings of knowing that, oh, I was actually chosen and I was meant to be here, and the people who brought me into this world, they chose me to be theirs. So for me, it does go into, I mean, I know when I was born, I'm the third born, and I was a rainbow baby, and I know that it was a treasured thing, like this baby, it was scary. I can imagine even for my parents having this baby after tragedy. So knowing that they really wanted me to stay alive, and that they really wanted me. I laugh, and the embarrassing stories that my dad always tells about how I used to cry so much. But they would always choose to carry me, so I would always need attention. But the story doesn't end with me just crying. It's someone choosing to take care of me, even though I was like crying 24/7. So, just those little things that show you that you were chosen, they influence so much of your life. And I can imagine that if it was a story of, oh, you kind of surprised us, and you kind of just came out of the blue, that would influence the way that I would see myself. And so being chosen is something that it's in our subconscious, but it's not something that you often think about, and then it goes on. I mean, you grow up, and then there's simple things like being chosen on the playground by your friends. On
yeah.
Your lunch is not
a big deal.
Friend, like they write your notes, those kind of vibes, So there's many of those, and obviously it doesn't mean that once you're chosen, it doesn't mean that you're chosen in every space. I can definitely think of countless times where I wasn't chosen for sports, and so I'd be like, oh, sports suck, I don't like sports. And that was because I didn't feel like I'd be chosen. I was short, and so I couldn't do a lot of the sports. Long jump, high jump, all of those sports were like, I feel like I'd really suck. So I'd be like, nah, this stuff is boring. I don't like it, in order to avoid that kind of rejection. And when you learn those things from like primary school, or when you're young, you kind of grow up with them, and you learn that these kind of things where you're not chosen, to kind of not choose them either way, and so being chosen can stem from so many things, and you kind of learn ways to deal with the rejection before it rejects you. And I think that for me, that's how it's been. I'll be like, oh, I don't like that because, but actually it's because I'm like, before they reject me, I'll actually reject it first, because a huge part of being chosen is, or being not chosen, will be the rejection that comes with that. And somehow we relate it to our worth and our belonging and so many other aspects of who we are.
That's so interesting that like the experience of being chosen or not chosen is actually one of the very first experiences we have, even as infants. And even some people say in utero, just like the hormones that a mother has in her body when she is happy about the pregnancy, or when she's stressed and things like that. So it's so true. And it really does influence how we look at life. Like what you said about sports, you could be like, I'm not really that into sports, but that's because you have a fear of not being chosen, or because at some point in your life you weren't chosen by that thing. So you think, let me reject it first before, and that shapes, who you are and your likes and dislikes. Yeah, interesting. So as a Christian, what does it mean to you to be chosen by God? And how does that mediate being chosen and not chosen in the world?
Sure. When you feel chosen by God, for me, I think that it directly goes into the things that I choose to do. There's so many things, like at the age that we're at, I mean, people are being chosen to get married. People are being chosen to have children, we've seen the captions like, thank you for choosing me, baby, for being your mom.
Right.
And that is exactly what it is. So we see those kind of things, people being chosen for those kind of tasks. And I think that for me, it's been me having the conversation with God that, Lord, when you give me the desire to choose these things, I hope that you put, so when you give me these things, so if, for example, it's now time for me to be a mom, I hope that the desire that he's put in me is, it comes and then the baby comes, instead of like 10 years you're waiting and you have this desire to be chosen to be a mother. And so for me, those are the kind of conversations that I'll have with God, like, okay, Lord, while we're in a period of, say, singleness, what are the things that you have chosen me to do that are in line with the purpose that you have for me? Because these are the kinds of things that you've put in my heart. And so it will come out for me in my journaling. Maybe write something that's, I didn't realize that this was something that I wanted so much, and it will come to me, and then immediately afterwards I'll start, either I'll tell you about this thing that, this is something that's been on my heart, and so how can we bring it to fruition? And sometimes it means wait, sometimes even though God gives you a portion of the vision that he wants for you, a portion of the purpose, he'll give it to you in bite-sized versions. He's not going to be like, okay, so tomorrow the mansion is waiting outside. The mansion is on your street.
If only.
It takes baby steps, and it takes, just like, I'll start looking at houses all of a sudden, and it'll be little things that he'll be planting on my heart. And someone might mention to me that, I'm actually selling my flats, and, do you know anyone who wants to buy it? And I'm like, that's strange. I've just been watching stuff that's like renovations, and something in my heart kind of does a thing. And so for me, it's always just being in tune with God and knowing when it's the right time, using the things that he's put in my heart, and not wanting what other people desire as opposed to what is for me. And so as much as, yes, these are things that I can want someday, I always rely on God to be like, when it's not for me yet. Let me be comfortable and let me be confident in that you have these things for me eventually. So so it's relying a lot on God, because He doesn't give us the full vision. Like when we wrote the book, all we had was a sort of format, but we had no idea what it would be called. We had no idea of the length. We had no idea how we would get the funds. I mean, you could Google search easily how much would it cost to write a book, and you'd be like, child.
Yay! Stressful times.
No, we don't have a blueprint. We don't even have a portion of that. But look at God. God will provide the resources with time. And so it's not for you to look at how am I going to make this happen. It's to say, Lord, I trust you because you've put this on my heart. And to trust that and to pray about it, and not just to follow every dream. Because for me, I dream about 1,000 things a day. And so I imagine and I see them coming to life already. But I think that, you know, God puts people like you sometimes will be like, yeah, maybe we can do it next year. You know, and
I'm always that calm.
And just be like, oh yeah, we can do it like sometime in the future, you know. But God already provides for that. So even if He's put all of the dreams, you'll have things or people that make you take it step by step. So yeah, that's what it means, I think, to rely on God for this vision, and for relying on Him on the things that you're chosen for, because it's so easy to feel like other people are doing things and I'm just doing this, you know. So yeah.
Love that. So God is like an inside man, and you know that even if the thing that you desire isn't choosing you now, that He knows, and you can have those conversations with Him and say, but God, I really want this, or God, is this really for me, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, with that being said, that's you being chosen for things. But sometimes it's just not for you. And it's difficult when God's answer is no. You're like, are you sure? Like, you know, I mean, you want to find ways around it. So maybe you can just shed some light on what it feels like to not be chosen for certain things that you want.
Yeah. Look, no matter how, you know, enlightened, self-aware, you know, in touch with God you are, not being chosen is not nice. It's never going to be a fun time. And I think that it's so important to acknowledge that it's not nice, and to acknowledge that punch in the gut feeling that you get when you get a rejection letter, when, you know, in any form, when the person that you want doesn't want you back, any form of rejection, it's important to acknowledge that it's not nice here. You can cry, you can eat ice cream, you can take an impromptu nap, you know, do what you need to do and acknowledge that feeling, because it's normal. I mean, we aren't supposed to not feel that. But I think that what we need to guard against is that it doesn't feel like the end of the world. It shouldn't feel like an indictment on you as a person. So just because the thing that I want has not chosen me, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. I am undeserving of good things. No, this particular thing is not mine. And it's so important to be aware of the kind of thoughts that are in our minds when we are not chosen for things. So are you thinking, I knew I wouldn't get it. I'm not that smart anyway. Or why do bad things happen to me? You know, and get into self-pity. It's so important to look at what kind of thoughts are going through my mind. Where are those thoughts coming from? Are they coming from a place of fear and scarcity? Are they coming from a place of love and gratitude? Because I always say that, you know, they say that God has 3 answers: yes, no, wait. And for me, it's all grace. If God says yes to the thing that I want, it's grace. How amazing that I get to have it. If God says no to the thing that I want, it's grace, because who knows, you know, how misaligned I would have been if I had gotten it. And if God says wait, you know, how amazing is it that when I get it, I'll be ready for it and I'll be able to enjoy it to the full. So I think it's so important that, yes, we can feel what we feel when we're not chosen. And it's not nice for everyone. It's a universal human experience. But we need to be so aware of what we're thinking and how we behave when we're not chosen for things. So if you're not chosen for a job, let's say you apply for a promotion at work, you're not chosen, and then you act out and throw your toys up the cart. Gandhi, they were considering you for a different promotion, another position, and now your behavior has affected your chances of being chosen in the future. We need to understand that in life, what's for us is for us. It will come.
Oh, love that. And especially like just exactly what you said. It's 2 things. It's the story that you tell yourself in your head about yourself straight after you get that rejection. You know, sometimes you'll be praying and you're like, Lord, this job is mine. I feel it in my spirit.
Yeah.
And just like,
and the interview was great. You were laughing with the with the HR people.
And you feel it, and you know, and even like one of the people there will be like, you know, we'll see you on the 1st, and you're like, oh.
Right.
And then you get that,
and you get along with the lady sitting in the front, and you're like, bye girl, see you soon.
And then unfortunately you get just like a couple of days later you get, and I think that the story that you tell yourself about why you got it, and why someone else, why you didn't get it, and why someone else got it, is always somehow related to how you see yourself in your work. And it's so beautiful to be able to think that, you know what, Lord, you must obviously have a bigger or a better job that I'm more suitable and aligned for in place, that's why you didn't give me that one. And so that is beautiful. So what are some other examples?
Yeah, and even just and even just acknowledging that the person who did get it is so deserving of it and so worthy of that opportunity or that person or that job or whatever it is. And when yours comes around, you will be just as deserving of your thing.
Exactly. I mean, because even when you are chosen for something, especially with things like jobs, someone else got a rejection email, you know, someone else got the rejection. And so it's twofold.
Exactly.
And, you know, as you said, the answer is always yes, no, or wait. And so with the no, what are some other ways in which we can be not chosen?
Not being chosen is actually such a vast experience. And I think sometimes we struggle to call it what it is, and you'll just be angry and in a bad mood and you don't know why. And I think it's so important to label it and name it and say, oh, I'm actually feeling hurt because I haven't been chosen. And it could be, you know, like you were saying in the beginning, childhood, when a child's parents pass away, or they're given up for adoption, or, you know, it could even just be a parent being busy or emotionally unavailable. That can be an experience of not being chosen. When you're on the sports field and you're not chosen for the team, that is an experience of rejection and not being chosen. When you're not chosen for a job, when you pitch an idea and they don't think it's as good as you thought it was when you pitched it. When you really like someone and they don't choose you, or they do date you and then they don't marry you. When something that you were chosen for stops choosing you. So you had the job and then there had to be retrenchments at the company, and it was you who got retrenched, or you were friends with somebody and really close, and then you just grew apart.
Sure.
It can be something as simple as your close friend chose to confide in another friend. So you're like, why wasn't I the one that you chose to? Or even like you pick up a baby and it starts crying when you pick it up, and then you give it to someone else and then it starts giggling. Like
The worst.
you haven't been chosen. That breaks my heart every time. But it's so important to call it what it is, that this person, this thing, this opportunity did not choose me, and it hurts, and that's okay. And it's also important to label it when,
and end up being like,
mm,
sorry to cut you. Just you can end up
no
being
problem.
like, oh, I don't like babies, just because of one
Yep,
experience. And so just to go
exactly.
take a step back and be like, actually, I do like babies, but this experience doesn't limit my full experience of children. And sometimes that goes into even adulthood, where people are like, I don't want to have children, based on, and you don't know where
Yeah.
it comes from, you don't know where it stems from, and where this sudden dislike of children. But it could come from that place of hurt where you were not chosen as a child, or you felt abandoned, as you said, by a parent even passing away, or a parent, just not being emotionally available. And you could think that I don't want to bring a child into this difficult world where it's rejection and it's pain and it's fighting for your place in the world. And you could think that you don't want to bring a child into this world, but actually it stems from a place of pain. And so that could be a real thing. And when you go back to where it comes from, you can actually heal that part of you, and maybe see that you might actually like children or not, but it can come from places like that. Mm.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us do it with Njolo. Like you get hurt and then you're like, angufun and easy. And like, no, babes, you like love. You just don't like what happened the last time you
Exactly.
loved someone.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's so important to call it what it is. And call it what it is when you don't choose something. So one of my favorite YouTubers made an example. Oh, the relationship ended because Usman moved to another city.
Yeah.
Call it that I chose to not go with them.
Yeah.
I chose that, because we always have a choice. We're always choosing.
Yeah.
So, I think once you understand that choosing happens all the time, and
Yes.
not being chosen is not the end of the world. It's going to happen all the time. Just like you choose things and reject others, it's a universal human experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm.
And just on that, especially with regards to work, because I think lots of people build their identity around what they do for a living. And one of the first questions that people ask you when they meet you is, oh, so what do you do?
Yeah.
How do we, how does not being chosen, let's say, for example, for work, how does that impact our self-esteem? And how can we combat those like self-deprecating thoughts that come with not being chosen, specifically for work and specifically in this climate, as the economy has taken a dive right now?
Yeah. I've definitely had this experience too many times where I'll literally just not be chosen for it. I'm very optimistic as well. So with everything, I'm like, I got it. I'm always just very optimistic about most situations. So it hurts more. And I know very well that I'm shooting myself in the foot, because, wow, it's going to hurt a lot more. But that's my default, and that's just the way that it is. I think that with jobs, we take it in a way as if our work is our worth. And so, I read somewhere, someone was saying that how Kanti, are we supposed to call doctors Dr. Spanban in the club, you know, like
At group.
you're not a doctor here.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's those little
Yeah.
things like how, guys, why do we have to call you Dr. So and so, even when we're a group like that, you know, because sometimes people take that a little bit too far, where that's their identity and that's their social weight, where this is how we, like with social bargaining, where we come into a space and we want people to know that, oh, by the way, you know, this is what I bring. And so it's such a huge determinant of how we show up in different spaces when our jobs become our titles and that becomes who we are. um, I know that we don't like to talk about like titles and stuff like that because it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter um, how much respect you give me because of what I do or how much I've studied or what I have studied. Because you'll find that someone in a degree, a social science degree, may have studied longer and has like 3 degrees um, in humanities or something that's like not so serious taken by others. And then someone who studied law or studied to be a doctor could, you know, could have more social weight. And so it's important to look at that from an angle of who are you as a person outside of what you do. That isn't the fullness of who you are. And so when it comes to being rejected for certain opportunities, you look at it as, did I actually choose this job? And even with interviews, yeah, my sister recently went for an interview, and you know, my question was, does she choose the job as well? You know, before they even choose her,
So
did
important.
she choose this job? What are the things? What is the culture like? Is it a culture that she wants to belong to? What are the things that she observed? And when she does go for maybe a follow up, what what does she have in mind that would make her say, actually, thank you, but my worth is that is not something I'm willing to compromise on to choose this job or to choose this company or to choose this work culture. And so we put it too much on the other company. And I think that in this day and age, it's up to us to also say, do I choose this job? And give ourselves some kind of power to look at that, to come into it looking for our own looking at our own objectives and looking at, do I choose you as well, you know? And so so with jobs, that's a way that you could come into it. And so even when they don't, you know that, oh, okay, actually their culture was a bit off for me. And so maybe that's a way that I was saved by their own rejection, where it's not about my ability, but it just wasn't a fit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. That and I'm thinking of, even, when we used to do Women Crush Wednesdays and we do feature articles on people, we'd really try to shy away from, making somebody's title or what they do, them. I think the magic of human beings is something so much more intangible. And when we fix our eyes on the stuff that's here on the surface, like what do they study, what do they do, who do they work with, what circles do they run in, we miss the good stuff of human beings. So I think that's just so true.
Exactly that. You really, it's a very shallow way to look at people. But how do we feel worthy, you know, despite not being chosen? Because fine, it's great to have those thoughts, but I mean, at the end of the day, it does make you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not worthy of this, whatever it is that you were not chosen for.
So for me, number one is definitely the fact that I've been chosen by God.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. I believe that God created me and chose me and predestined me for the role that I'm going to play here on earth.
Yeah.
So I'm not here by accident. And God has a plan for me. And the things that are mine, God has lined those things up for me. The opportunities, the people, the resources that are mine, they're coming to me. It's just a matter. And I always look at it like this. It's either the thing wasn't mine if it hasn't chosen me, or I'm not ready for it.
Yeah.
And how do I get ready for it? So that's where my focus is, most of the time. And just to think that, like, when something or someone doesn't choose me, it's not an issue of my self-worth.
Yeah.
If you don't think that I'm going to fit in your organization, it's not because I'm not smart, I'm not good inherently. It's just that it's an issue of alignment, not of worth. So that's really how I try to look at it all the time, and to just say that God has chosen me, therefore I am worthy, period. That any other chosenness and unchosenness can't touch that. I'm worthy, period. And then also the things that come and that go are the ones that are supposed to come, the ones that are supposed to go. So I try to breathe through it and allow it. And that's how I try to deal with not being chosen.
Let it. And just like that, we are at the end of this. I feel like we could go on with this topic. It's such
on and on.
It's such an important one that, I mean, it affects us every single day. And there's so much depth that we can cover. But I hope that someone sees something in them that, and I mean, it's such a weird time to where people are losing jobs, where people are losing homes, where people are losing family at different ages, and so being able to understand that you are inherently chosen despite what may be happening is everything. It's really something to learn and to hold on to. And that doesn't mean that the feelings won't be there. It doesn't mean you won't feel rejected. But I hope that this serves as a reminder that you are at your very core chosen by God, and just choosing yourself every day as a matter of importance.
And it also doesn't mean that you just need to sit back and wait for your things to come.
Yeah.
Because like I said, sometimes it's that you're not ready for the thing. Like, you need to hone your craft. You need to, put in the hours before the thing can choose you. That's yours. So we're definitely not saying sit back and those employers aren't choosing you because they are misaligned. No. Work.
Exactly. All right. Well, that is the end of our episode. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please let us know in the comments how you feel about this topic. If there's anything else that you'd like to be addressed on this topic, and and what you've got from it. So we love reading the comments. Please keep them coming, and don't forget to subscribe after you've watched, or before you've watched, or during. It's very, very, we are growing, and it's encouraging for us to keep going as well.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And also, please let us know what you think of the new setup. Do you feel like we're connected? Like, what do you think? And also, Abelo says that he wants to come and say hi. Come. This is my son, Abelo. Say hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
And subscribe.
Subscribe.
Bye.
Subscribe for you.
And that's that on that. We'll see you next time.